my website got hacked. But the big thing was, yeah, I got hacked, and I passed it on to someone else. It got stolen. I tried to link it with someone else, but I did manage to publish some videos of my time meditating in India. But because my identity got stolen, the library, the website's done, I lost a lot of, I went from 90-something thousand a year down to about 3,000 a year, 4,000 a year overnight without knowing it. So I carried things on my credit card. I paid on my rent on my credit card, thinking it's going to solve, following the vision of it. But in the end, it got up to a point where I owed $100,000 on credit cards. I hadn't made a payment in a year. They're coming after me. And it's a long story. Anyways, all this stuff. Finally, I managed to find someone to buy the library. So I had this library, which was 500 people donated the books. I ran the library for 30 years, almost the whole time from midheaven to midheaven. But I managed to find some investors who bought the library for the debts that I owed, about 200,000, and they found it was worth $3 million. So they bought the library. They got the tax credit for $3 million. I got the money to pay off all my debts. I cleared all my debts. So I had my best deal ever. I sold the library. I paid off every debt. I got totally clear for a month or two. But at the same time, it was my best success. It was my best failure. My worst failure because I lost the library, which I lived in for 30 years. So it was another peak with complications. On the previous one, my marriage ended, but the second, on this one, and I had to move, and I had to move in the city. Things happened. The first one, the second one, again, everything fell apart, and I had to move, downsize, let go of things, and just survive. So in that extending of influence, I managed to pay off the debts and keep building up with build up my own sites. Now I have about 20 sites with different pieces of the first site, still working on it. So that was this influence and status challenges, status problems. But I was known fairly significantly by then. By the time Saturn came down to the ascendant, I pushed this influence as far as I sold the library. I was running the place without a library. I moved, and in this process, I moved out of Toronto. I lived in a smaller town, and I had my own studio, and I was extending the influence. But during this time, also, I started developing a lot of music. I was being involved with music. I was studying. I was learning drums. I was participating in drum circles, African drumming. I was very active in the drumming community, even running a couple of stages at Afrofest. So a lot of activities, even though the astrology peaked and leveled, I still had other things I was very active with, and increasing my influence. Saturn went from the midheaven to the ascendant. When it hit the ascendant, what happened here? My car died, and I finally found out that someone gave me a car for $1, Pathfinder. I had a lot of back pain. My pain was I could hardly walk for a while, and I was seeing a chiropractor, and finally, after about 6 months, I could walk. I started doing some Tai Chi, and I regrouped my back. So I had a lot of pain associated with this. I started a New Moon meditation group, and during this whole period, I started at this point building. At the beginning of this, in the fall of 2007, I started building the Woodhenge in the forest. So that was a different thing than teaching and studying. I was really learning and built this forest, this 120 posts in a forest, cleared out the forest, built the Woodhenge. And we started having rituals in there. And the final point of Saturn the Ascendant, I had drumming workshops or circles in the Woodhenge as Saturn hit the Ascendant. Then I was involved in extending and rebuilding the Woodhenge and just growing and learning in personal ways during this time. When it hit the IC, first I was trying to get back and work on a computer program. It ended. By the time it hit the IC, I started a meetup group for a year, but then I went to China. And the trip to China was unexpected, but it really motivated me. And I really wasn't motivated by astrology during this time because I'd burned out, but I was still doing things. But when I got to China, it really it affected my motivation. I went for 2 weeks in September 2015. Then 3 months later, I went back for 2 months or 6 weeks. Then I started a webinar. I went for a year and a half with English and Mandarin. I started taking Mandarin lessons. So it's the beginning of a whole new motivation to try and build up new things. Often at the IC, someone from another lifetime seems like walks in. For here, it was China. The time before, it was the beginning of my second marriage. Time before my brother was born. So there's different. Sometimes people come in when you're just, and they're lined up to your new motivation. That builds up. It doesn't hit my descent until 2023, and by then, who knows? That's the next cycle. So that's. I mean, even these stories, you can take any one of these things, slow it down, build up, and show how it went from this phase to that phase, which I didn't do as much as I should have or could have, but you need more time. But your chart should look like this. You should have the dates, and whenever there's 2 or 3 hits, you're gonna think you deal with it the first time. It's gonna go on. It's gonna come back. You have to deal with it again, and by the 3rd time it hits, sometimes Saturn just goes through once, and you just get 1 hit. And it goes by. You dealt with it 1 time. Sometimes you have to do it 2 or 3 times. But it's important to look for these 2 or 3 hits, get them down, and look at this below the horizon phase, the status phase outside, the changes around it. It's really simple. As soon as you start doing your chart, doing a few people's charts with it, this will start clicking in, and you start to expand the implications of personal growth, the implications of growth and capacity, the implication of growth and function, the implications of growth and influence. You start seeing how people are using it positively and negatively, and the results of the identity, the crises that come up, the angles, whether they dealt with it or not. And sometimes you avoid dealing with something for years and look back and, geez, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you're back where Saturn is now. It's what you're dealing with, what should have happened 30 years ago. You're having to go back and fix the old things at this age. So often by the time you go up to school to have kids, you bring up your kids, by the time Saturn comes around, it's my turn to go back to school. I'm just in my 50s. There's a natural side to it, but when it gets negative, it gets very dramatic. But this is seeable, it's recognizable, it's the backbone of knowing transits. So I can't overemphasize it enough. But this is the last. We did a whole lot of weeks just on Saturn. And it's not boring. You slow it down, you start seeing it, you start seeing the texture behind it. It's not just the rhythm, we're seeing the textures behind it, and each individual factor that it's doing, it becomes alive. Next week, we're going to spend 1 week on Jupiter. And you're going to need to, there's a Jupiter graph. I'll send it to you tonight. There's 3 Jupiter graphs, one to Jupiter to itself, one to Jupiter to the sun, and one to Jupiter to the angles. And you're going to have to do all 3 of them. And there's more calculations because it's a 12-year cycle. So you're going to have 5, 6, 7 of these cycles to get to 72. But I have the graphs. You might need 2 graphs to do it. But I want you to go through it and follow it through. And this will help you build up your cycle with Jupiter. Is your philosophy, your outlook on life, your understanding, your guidance system. And if your guidance system is aware of Saturn, how wise, how incredible, how much you can accomplish. If it's fighting with Saturn, oh, how much difficulties pile up. Okay, so we're going to start with Jupiter next week. I got to get this downloaded and then uploaded up and be able to send it to you. It takes a few hours. And then I'll send you the Jupiter graphs. And yeah, we'll take it from there. Thank you. Okay, I'll talk to you next week.